Okay, so we're saying here each issue of a business newsletter has 5 slots numbered 1 through 5. So whenever I read that, I'm a pen to paper pencil kind of person. So before I even read on, I do my 5 slots
Mm-hmm.
and just label them. Partly because I'm also a visual person, so it kind of helps me as I read to kind of like place it.
Mm-hmm.
The policy of the newspaper requires that there are at least 3 features per issue, with each feature occupying one or more of the slots. Okay, so what did you, I can see how this could be confusing. What did you take these 2 first sentences to mean?
So, um, I took it to mean that like if you have 5 slots, that at least obviously 3 of those um had to be features. And even though the next part is I found out that it doesn't mean that you have to have 3 different variety of features. It's just saying you have to have 3 features. So, like you could have 3 features and 2 graphics.
Yes. Okay, and we don't know that yet. So I
Okay.
was right, but yes, so I was confused, like kind of confused. So, but after rereading this, I realized that this is like one issue here. Like if it was a magazine, like this is like volume 1, and in each one of these like slots is like it has to have at least 3 features out of those 5 slots. So I'm like, okay, cool.
Mhm.
The fives, each feature can be one of 4 types. So if it's a feature, it can be F, I, M, or T. A slot not containing a feature contains a graphic. All right, so I'm just gonna put G, like G here is like, okay, so that can fill it in.
Mhm.
The newspaper. Okay, so that's what we got so far. So I'm like, all right, so so they have to have at least 3 features. So I'm like, at least 3 of these have to be a feature. So at most, how many graphics can we have?
2.
Excellent. Okay, so go ahead and read rule number 1.
Um, so uh any feature occupying more than 1 slot must occupy consecutively number slots.
So I'm thinking like, okay, so if it has 2 pages, like it's like if it's like a 2-page feature, like 1 and 2, it has to go back to back.
Mhm.
All right, cool. But that
If an
still just counts as one feature, right?
Yeah, and that's what I think my mind had a very hard time getting. It's
That's
like I
tricky.
should have thought of that as pages, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as pages. That probably my mind probably would have gotten that a little bit better. The next rule though is if an issue has any finance or technology feature, then a finance or technology feature must occupy slot 1. This was also very confusing to me.
So if we have F or T, then F or T has to be in slot 1. I think what makes this one confusing is you could have like if it could have like a technology feature in 4, but it could still
But that's
build a
fine as long
tool
as
by putting
yeah.
finance in 1 or something. Yeah, that's true.
That's kind of what got me confused because then I was like, for a second, I thought it meant only F or T, like if they were there, could be in 1 and 2, but then I had to reread it and figure out that that is not the case.
All right, and then what about rule 3?
An issue can have at most 1 industry feature, which also confused me because that doesn't just mean that it can go in one of the slots. It's just saying you can't have like industry and industry in 1 and 2 and then industry in 4. But again, this is like things I kind of discovered
Mhm.
after the fact. But yeah.
I think what also makes this, the reason that this rule is helpful, I think, is that it shows us that you could have like more than one feature of one of these. So like technically you could have like industry, and then like something else, not because we can't have more than one, but I think it helps clarify like what we're able to do, and it helps us define that
Well, that what you just wrote, you can't do, right?
No, because we can't have more than one
Oh,
industry. But
okay.
I think it helps us clarify that you can have more than one. Like, why would we have this rule if we can't have more than one feature of something else? And
And
also, I think it helps clarify that maybe I'm looking too far into this, that but like something that is right next to each other is still just one feature and not
and
two.
and since it says it has to be at least three, then if you have industry. Well, wait. If See, this was so confusing to me because if you have like industry, and one and two, that would be one feature. And then you could only have like it could just be industry and marketing, but marketing would have to be like marketing in three, graphic in four, marketing in five to
Yeah,
make it.
that would work. Exactly.
But again, that is not something that my brain
Brain
like
thought of.
because there's not many games like this where you can have like a lot of times it's just like putting in like FIM and T, like having this like repeating sort of situation, but also the fact that like having two things back to back doesn't doesn't mean two, it means one. That's what really got me.
I know. And what also makes this game difficult is there's not a lot of rules to
And there's
help.
no way that you
So
can
there's
master
no
the scenarios.
yeah, there's no restraints here. There's no way you can do like worlds here. And also, at an issue can at most have one industry feature. It also like might not have any industry feature either.
What do you mean by worlds?
I think those are scenarios. Like what you probably think. I can show you one of those after this game, like just to see if it's
The
what you do.
Test Masters, yeah, called it mastering the scenarios.
Yeah, I assume. Yeah, that's probably what they did. So here, which of the following is an allowable structure for an issue? So how I go about these questions is I read one of my first rule and then I cross answers off as I go.
That's how I do them.
I think that's faster. And see, even these ones I feel like take more time because you really have to like even understand like how they're. I hate games that like when like how they label it is like backwards than maybe what I did my diagram of. Or
Mhm.
here I'm like, wait, slot one, finance feature. Can that be? I don't like ones that are multiple lines. It's hard for me to read. But
Yeah.
what questions did you miss?
I missed 19.
Oh, okay. So let's start here. So any feature occupying more than one slot must occupy consecutive number slots. So really all that's saying is that if it's one feature, it has to be next to each other. But I think what we should start off with is saying that there has to be at least 3 features per issue. So let's go ahead and read through these and look for 3 features. And if we can't, let's cross those off.
Okay. One. That does not work. Because you have one finance and then.
But it tells us that it's a second industry feature.
Oh.
So
Well, it doesn't work for the other rule, but in terms of the rule we're working with, that's fine.
perfect. All right.
Um,
B.
graphic technology. That works with the rule.
That we're basing it on. Yep. What about C?
That works.
Okay. D.
That works.
And then E.
That works.
Awesome. All right. So now let's go back to 1, which I'm just going to save us some time, which I think E is the one we can cross off because of rule 1.
Oh, shoot. That's the one I picked and I didn't notice the numbers.
And that's why I hate these because it's so much that you're looking at while you're doing it.
I was between D and E and yeah, shoot.
I
I didn't
think
even
that's
notice
the
that.
only one that we can cross off for that one though. And then what about rule number 2?
You can cross off B.
Excellent.
And that's it for that rule.
Industry. Yep. All right. And what about 3?
Oh, wait, you can cross off C.
A single industry.
His finance is slot 5.
Technology. Excellent.
See, this is so hard. You have to really go searching for.
Yeah, no, you have to spend a lot of time on these.
Okay. And then 3, an issue can have at most one industry feature. Well, then that crosses off A, so it's D. Like I said, I was between D and E, and I didn't even notice that it said, I thought it went technology in 1, then 2 and 3 was a single marketing fee. It was a misread. So that makes
At
sense.
least that's comforting.
Yeah. Just got to slow down a little bit.
So then after I do the main question, if there is like 90% of games have like this typical first question, occasionally we don't. I then go and I click through and do the if questions first. Do you do that? The reason I do that is the if questions are easier and it helps me like save time on the other questions because the if questions help me play with
Oh.
the rules a little bit because it's like bringing in a new rule. And so they're easier. So then when I go back to the other ones, it helps me make predictions easier.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah. So
So 20.
yeah, so yeah, tell me how you would go about solving this one.
If an issue of the newsletter has no technology feature and if there's a finance feature, the occupied spot is required of those issues. I just did rule driving based upon rule 2, and I knew that if you did not have T, but you did already, we were told that finance was a part of our newsletter, then as rule 2 says that if any if an issue has any finance or technology, then it has to occupy slot 1. So if we know that there's no T, then we know that F has to be in 1.
Excellent.
I got that one right. I did not miss that one. So I said A.
Yep, perfect. Easy to predict. All right, and then 22.
If a particular issue of the newsletter if in a particular issue of the newsletter, slot 1 is occupied by the only industry feature in that issue, then which one of the following is required for that issue? So I did miss this one, but I missed it because I knew what the answer was, but it was one of the cases that the answers didn't read like
What you were expecting?
yes. So what this told me though is that if slot 1 is occupied by the industry by the only industry feature. So my only confusion of this wording of this question was if it says the only industry features, does that mean that there could be an I in slot 2?
I think there could be because it could be the same feature.
Okay, and that got me a little confused, but
So we don't know though. But what else do we know? Because
we
it
know
I is
that
one.
there's definitely no finance or technology.
Excellent. So then who do we definitely have to have?
We have to have marketing.
Excellent. Because we can only have one eye. All right. So which of the following is required for the issue?
There's an industry feature that occupies slot 1 and 2. I don't think that that's right because you don't have to have it in. We don't know that you have to have it in
Yeah, I
2.
don't think you would have to.
And then B, there's an industry feature that occupies slots 1, 2, and 3, and only those slots. Again, we don't know if it occupies 1, 2. And actually, it couldn't occupy 1, 2, and 3 because you have to have 3 features. So you can't have it in 3.
Well, I think you could because you could have marketing an individual feature and marketing an individual feature.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But I was wondering, did it say that? Oh, if it okay, yeah, it could. It has to occupy just. It has to occupy consecutive slots. It doesn't tell us like at most 2. So yeah,
Yeah.
it could be 3. All right, and then C.
There is a marketing feature that occupies slot 2 or 3 or both. I don't think that's required because like we just gave that scenario. You could have I, and then MM.
Excellent.
D. There is a marketing feature that occupies 1 or more of slots 2, 3, and 4. I know that this is the right answer from going over it, but I didn't pick it because I saw slot 2 or 3 and I thought that like wasn't a requirement, but I think that the key in this answer is the number 4.
Okay, so what does answer choice D mean in your own words? Like, what is that expressing? That the
It's saying
marketing
that
has to be
in it's saying that M has to be in at least 1, 2, or 3. Or
or
1, or excuse me, 2, 3, or 4.
yes. So how many M's do we for sure have to have?
1. Or we for sure have to have 2.
Right. And so we can for sure put 1 here and it can be its own feature, but we have to have another marketing feature somewhere and it has to go in one of these. Like technically it could actually go in any of these, but it has to be in at least one of them to get our 2 marketing features. So we have our 3 features total.
See, I picked E because I had that idea, but that E is too limiting because it doesn't have to just be 3 or 5.
Right. It could be in 2 or 4.
See, I had like
No, you were on the right track. Absolutely.
yeah, it was just, but that makes sense. I didn't think about it that way that we, but why does it have to be in 5? Why couldn't it be marketing
Oh,
and
it could. Like it doesn't like answer choice D doesn't say 5, but I'm saying like what happens like I'm trying to prove it wrong. And so I'm gonna put 1 in 5, like trying to make it so it doesn't have to be in 2, 3, or 4. But then I'm like, oh, it has to go in one of the other one has to go in one of these.
so in this case you were kind of like trying to prove the answer wrong to prove that
Yes.
it was right.
Yep. And then so like for your answer, how I would prove that wrong is not put 1 in 3 or 5. So I could put marketing in 2 and marketing in 4, and that would work.
Because then you could have a graphic in 3 and 5.
Yep. And so then E would be wrong.
I need to start doing that strategy.
Especially if you're debating between two. Like especially with your time. If you have time at the end and you're on question, like yeah, why not just check it?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So then we're gonna go. So we did our if question. So now we'll go back to what we call like the world questions.
Okay.
So I'm gonna move this up for us. So, which of the following is not allowed for an issue of a newspaper? So, how I do these questions is I read them and I don't check every answer as I go. If I know it can't happen, I cross it off and then I read the next one. And then I go back and I check the ones that um then that like I don't know about. Or if there's one that I read this and I'm like, oh, that for sure, like I don't think that could work, then I test it. But if
Got
I'm not sure, then I just leave it and for now.
Okay. Okay. Which one of the following is not allowed for? There's exactly one industry feature and it occupies slot 1. I think that that's fine.
Yeah, we just did it. So I'm going to cross that one off. Like that's one I would cross off right away.
There's exactly one finance feature and it occupies slot 2. Well, I mean, that would work because if you had technology in 1, that'd be fine.
So I'm going to I haven't tried it to make sure that it works. So I'm going to leave it open for now.
Okay.
Cuz I want to be really certain.
Okay. C, there's exactly one technology feature and it occupies slot 3.
Same thing as B, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to leave that. D.
Each feature except the feature occupying slot 1 is either a finance feature or a marketing feature.
I feel like that one could like I'm reading that and I'm like, okay, could be leaving it open. And then E.
Each feature except the feature occupying slot 5 is either an industry feature or a marketing feature. So each feature. That doesn't work because we have to have finance or technology in slot 1, and we know that to be true.
But each feature except the feature occupying slot 5 is either in
So it's
industry.
saying that 1 through 4 is either I or M.
But couldn't we not have? Oh, yeah, I get what you're saying. Yep. So this one, so each feature except the feature. So we know that the feature, there is a feature in 5, and it's not I or M. And the only two left are F and T. And we can't have F or T there. Yeah, exactly. And so that's how I approach. So if I got to E and I thought that it, like, I'm like, I don't see anything that it couldn't work, E definitely would have been the one I would have tried first, even though you caught it before I did, just because it's like more constricting. I then would go back and try B, C, and D. But I don't want to cross them off until I actually try it, because like sometimes there's a rule that I don't understand. I'm missing, where if I like place it, there's not enough spots or
And
something.
I get why you now leave these, why you do the ifs first, because it leaves more time to do stuff like this.
Yeah, like so for example, like that first one we were able to answer because we had just answered, like that one I already knew that. And I in E we already had just played with the marketing one, so we kind of knew how those worked.
Gotcha.
So and then let's go ahead and do 23.
Um, any of the following is allowed for an issue of the newsletter except. Hmm. There's exactly one finance feature and no industry or marketing feature. I mean, that seems fine to me.
Yeah, I read that and I'm like, so what that would mean is if there's one F, it would just have to have two technology features, and I'm like, I don't see a problem with that.
Yeah.
But I didn't technically test it out, so I just put like a dash beside it.
Okay. There's exactly one industry feature and no finance or marketing feature. And still gonna leave
Yeah,
that
that
with
would just
a
be
dash.
ITT. So I'm like, okay, cool.
There is exactly one industry feature and no marketing or technology feature.
So that would be IFF. Don't see a problem with that.
D. There's exactly one marketing feature and no finance or technology feature.
Right. Because we can't have two I features.
It has to be I consecutive just to have one feature.
Yep. All right. And so I like that one. And then E.
There is exactly one marketing feature and no industry or technology feature. I mean, that will work because you could have F for one and then
Yeah,
one M and another F.
definitely D. What were the three questions that you missed?
How do I